Asang guwapa? Asang guwapa? Guwapa.
Pag ganun ang para makita.
Guwapa ng Belgium, oh. Guwapa, oh.
Guwapa, gyapa?
Ika lang. Guwapa, oh, guwapa.
Guwapita.
Guwapa.
Inita ng guwapa eh.
Tara, guwapa.
Oo nga, magganyan tayo. Magganyan tayo.
Oo, guwapa, oh, guwapa. Romania.
Halang-halang na ang mata ko ha.
From this moment, as long as I live, I will love you.
Sabi niya, Kristen.
Kaya pala chai tea. That is in the Paris, huh?
Small Paris.
Small Paris. And this is the small little Paris.
Sa gitna ng daan din ha.
Yeah, what in Paris is also like this, huh?
Sabi niya parang mabutas yung ano
Is
ko
the
rito.
fountain still open? The fountain. Water.
Harap.
Mga old, ah?
Parang nakakatakot mag-drive dito.
Oo nga, iba yung daan nila.
Parang isang place.
Hey,
Who's
Mark,
the driver
this
here? Driving.
The driving
Is okay?
It's very
Crazy?
crazy.
Bumili ako. Card na lang tayo.
O, ka hati-hati o.
Maya.
Ano lasa niya?
Pagyawak siya.
Parang picture sa kanila. Ikoreksyonan ko ni Manoy o.
Bakit?
Hindi mo ako pagka-pronounce.
First bite, luka-luka.
Luka, traditional.
Ay, sa YouTube pa kahit ang kapyang talagang magpalit na siya ng cellphone. Iba na talagang kuha ng kamera mo ha.
Puti ka. First bite, luka-luka.
Luka, traditional.
Ay, sa YouTube pa kahit ang kapyang talagang magpalit na siya ng cellphone. Iba na talagang kuha ng kamera mo ha.
Puti ka.
Lalami. Kaya Lisa, lami. Ito, ako ba na? Lami ha? Mamaya lang. Magtapon siya ng...
Ah, Sherman. Hello. Ano pala?
Ay, umaring-king ka.
Ay, alam mo po, Cham, yung braso mo, Cham, inaano. Is that ice cream, ha?
Shopping mall.
Huh?
Ito na ibalin ko rin
Ipo sa ako ako.
Sabot kami, kay kami na ulahi po.
Oo.
Buti na lang dito, umikot pa tayo ha?
Oh, yeah. We're happy that we can take the way here.
Yes, it's actually... Lots of people who are curious, like, why are there so many Christians over here, you know? Like, why are we starting a tour right over here? You'll get why.
Yo, special, ha?
So is it your first time in Romania?
Just
Travel?
travelers. We just when we was in Poland, May or
May.
oh
We just
just
East Europe, you know, it's cheaper. That's why.
yeah
Mrs. kung meron dito siyang alam na.
Forgot what we did before. So we'll be talking about communism in Romania, how it looked like. We'll be walking around here in Bucharest. We'll be seeing some symbols, let's say, and then I'll dive deep into all sorts of aspects about how the lives of the people looked like during communist times. Of course, with some historical and political context for you guys to have a better understanding of all about how it unfolded. And hopefully by the end of the tour, you're also going to have a better understanding of how you know, some of the remnants of communism that you can still see in our society nowadays, because as a person of Romania nowadays, because you know, some people are already familiar with how communism looked like back in the days, but they don't necessarily also know how these societies look like after 35 years, right? So we'll be, yes, having a tour. It will last around 3 hours, plus minus 15 minutes, depending on my pace, depending on how many questions you have as well. Anyway, do you have like a set schedule or anything like that? Just so that I know in case we exceed 15 minutes, hopefully it's not going to be the case, but you know. So we're also going to have a break going on over here. Actually, since we are now here in Romania, right, a lot of people don't know that many things about Romania. So it is also a good idea for you guys to understand how Romania came to be as a modern country, because this story actually is starting right where we're standing right now on this hill. And I'll explain to you through this map that I have over here. You can also come a bit closer if you want to have a better look at it. So this is Romania, right? And these are the main geographical elements that make up our country. The Carpathian Mountains, as you can see, the Danube River, and the Black Sea. These are the empires that we have been sandwiched in between for more or less the more modern times, let's say. And these are the main three historical regions of Romania: Transylvania, Moldavia, and Wallachia. Transylvania probably being the most popular destination amongst you, why you also came here to Romania. So historically speaking, this has been an area in which most of the people living over here have been Romanian-speaking population, as well as Orthodox, because the two make up our national identity, basically. But we have been under the Hungarian kingdom, and then later on when it merged with the Austrian-Hungarian Empire, in total for around 1,000 years. So Transylvania became part of the country after the fall of empires in 1918, after the First World War, basically. So until then, we had these two historical regions, Moldavia and Wallachia, which were semi-autonomous, meaning that we had to pay a tax to the Ottoman Empire as a way of maintaining this autonomy. In any case, as you can see, Moldavia is also cut into half. Some people are a bit also confused. Why exactly is Moldavia within the borders of Romania and half of it being an independent republic? Long story short, there was a war between the Ottoman Empire and the Russian Empire. And the Ottomans lost the war with the Russian Empire, so they just cut Moldavia into half, and as an aftermath of that war, they gave that side of Moldavia to the Russian Empire. Later on, after the First World War, same with Transylvania, it became part of Romania, but then it was annexed again by the Soviet Union this time, in 1944, which has been under the Soviet Union, and then until it gained its independence in 1991. So that is why we have a Moldavia, which is within the borders of Romania. Communism ideology. But in any case, if you ask us about Nicolae Ceausescu, so he was born 3 hours away from Bucharest in a small village in a family of about 11 siblings. That was raised in a very poor family, and one of his sisters was already living over here in Bucharest as the country was slowly starting to become more industrialized in the interwar period. Just like many people back then, Nicolae would also go to Bucharest to find his way over here. His sister was the one who helped him out with accommodating him, giving him also an apprenticeship as a shoemaker, finding this job for him. And she was also the one who came up with the idea of why not become a member of the Communist Party. So as you can see, it is always the older sister who comes up with the stupid ideas. I see this as being the youngest of his two older sisters. But in any case, as he became member of the Youth Communist Party, he was a very active member. That is where he also met Elena Ceausescu, his love of his life. And basically, rest is history, because after that, when he was a very active member, probably this is how he was also chosen later on to be president of the Socialist Republic of Romania. So I'll be now going into details about how communism came to be into our country, obviously after the Second World War. So, do you guys have any questions until then? Alright, then I suppose that we can get out of this whole crowd and let's go now to the next stop.
Ha? Natukar na para bang ang power misulod. Oo, no? Kuya, ka istorya ani, no? Walang tulog pasangin lang yung kanta
Nantok ako sa kanta. Sa kanta. Lantaw ba? Lantaw.
Basta lagi, kuan, lantaw lagi.
Luntang.
Lutang, sis, yung walang tulog, lutang. Yung sa Bisaya yan, langtang. We are now here. This is it. The,
Tanong ba, sir?
answer question, ha?
Yeah, how old are you?
Fine, thank you.
Mabablackout sa English. Parang si Lisa.
Hawakan nyo, para makuha ako. Di ba? Picture ka din kasi para ma
Nakita ko sa mo, camera mo, kailangan palitan.
oo.
Ito na talaga yung
Puti, hati na puti, ha?
Oo, di ba yung sapatos mo isang kulay
Oh, kasi
Kain na lang tayo ng itlog at tinapay.
oo. At saka marami naman tindahan dito, ha?
Parang ano tayo?
Ah,
Tapos na sila.
Auntie Sil,
Kapit na mabangga.
nakita kayo?
Hindi na namin makita eh.
Nag-tour ang mga travelers.
Mayaman kami.
Yaman kami eh. Umaga pa lang, napapasingot na yung mga singit. Ayan, oh.
Unang jowa, pangalawa, pangatlo.
Oo.
Sa Romania.
Yung kwarto namin may 5 lalaki naghintay.
Baka dito nagtatago si Saldigo natin.
Oo, si Salty ko.
Talagang iniisip ko yung mga tulugan natin mamaya.
Mainit na talaga. Karang sombrero ba? Nalimutan ko yung sombrero, ah.
Kala ko shades. Ay, hindi.
Oh, may shades na eh. I am prepared.
This also in Transylvania, also in Bucharest, in the main boulevards, you would see these horse carriages, like, you know, still in the year 2000s. And also when we were trying to become part of the European Union, they were telling us like, okay, but you know, you can't have pigs and chickens in the middle of the city because it was very common for people to have that because, you know, they have their a way of lifestyle over there like that. And this is because, well, Bucharest used to be made up of small villages which would come together and then make the bigger city. Whereas once the communists came into power, they wanted to make out of Bucharest a great metropolis. So from a population of around 500,000 people living over here before the Second World War, now officially Bucharest has around 2 million people living. So it is at least 4 times the size of it. So with this map over here, as I said, in the middle of the city, they demolished a lot, and especially with this whole Palace of Parliament thing. And this is where the whole mix of architectures happen, especially in the city center. But then as you go towards the outskirts of the city, you have all of these working class neighborhoods. And also there was a very big focus of systematizing this whole entire area of Bucharest south of the bank of the Danube, of the Dâmbovița River. So as you can see, this orange area that you can see on this map, this is representing around 25% of the land area of Bucharest, which has been demolished Parliament, which we're also going to see right in the next stop.
Yung bang ano, natawa ko doon sa ano eh. Ito na yung bahay ni Wednesday.
Hanap ka din at baka may andun eh.
Kaya ikaw na lang diyan kasi ako dito.
Ay, baka maano mo yung utot ko.
Oh, okay lang yan. Carbohydrates yan eh.
You can see this house over here. It's a house because of the same decoration that you can see on both sides. With this side having owners which had enough money to renovate the house, even maintaining the details, which is very unlikely to happen that in Bucharest because, you know, it's very costly on one hand to remake all of these. They'll just put a facade and that'll be it. Make a boulevard over here. And all of these architects and engineers, they were like, yes, sure, of course. Demolish anything that comes up to your mind because that's not how engineering works. There's risks implicated, monuments that we have to also maintain. So one of these engineers called decided not to be on, so we obviously wanted to be on the other side. And with the context of anti-Semitism here in Romania, with fascism, which is raising a lot in popularity quite everywhere in Europe. He was around 18 years old, so he said that he was too young to be taking care of the country during the World War. So he installed martial law, and this is how he drove Romania to Germany. And so, especially after the battle of Stalingrad, where Romania started to lose territories, especially parts of Transylvania, which for 1,000 years, you know, we were struggling to bring it under our country, made us think about switching sides. Now, on the other hand, there was also the Allies, which probably wanted also Romania to become part of the alliance, especially well, Russia was sending off lots of troops as a way of intimidating us and to force us to become part of the alliance. And that is especially because of Romania. So, as you can imagine, all of that petrol would have been an advantage for the allies to have all of that foreigner tanks, so on and so forth. So, towards the end of the war, we switched sides. And so after the Second World War, and also because Russia was so deeply implicated in the Second World War, Europe was cut into half, with the east side having the influence of the Soviet Union. So Romania piece in this whole geopolitical chessboard, and we didn't really have that much of a choice. So in any case, as the war ended, the next year there was an election in which it didn't matter who was voting, but who was counting the votes. And as the Russian troops were over here, well, they were the ones who were counting the votes. Have you also heard about our last election? Interestingly enough, how the votes were anno. It's an interesting actually parallel between now and then, and how there is Russian interference also to this day, especially with the context. One of which is actually right behind you. So this is the library of this monastery over here. This monastery being named after this dude right behind me. So what happened? And this family actually had a tradition of a very unique type of architecture for this part of Europe called the Brâncovenesque architecture. And it includes Byzantine elements, like you can see, for example, with the lace of flowers under the roof, as well as the arches from the ground floor. But it also includes ethno-folklorical elements, for example, with the circle from the middle of the building, which should be representing like the symbol of the sun or the circle of life. And then those diagonal bricks. This is also a very recurrent motif in our wood carvings here from Romania. So when it comes to this building, it became state-owned in the meantime. I didn't really find that much information about what happened with it in the meantime, but now, as you can see, it is owned by a private company, by a real estate agency. Now, when it comes to these kind of houses, it is obviously very costly to rebuild, to actually, just remake the whole facade and all of that. Hydroelectrical plant station, if you can call it like that, from the Danube River, which was a joint project with Yugoslavia, produces massive amounts of energy. But, of course, there were also other engineering projects which were maybe not that polished, but the people wanted for it to be rebuilt as it was. Whereas here, probably people would be, like I said. So another interesting outcome from communist times is also that Romania has one of the largest homeownership percentages in the world. Second largest, 95% of the people own a house over here in Romania. See right now.
And the salt mines? What about that?
So some of the salt mines.
Huh?
But after the fall of communism, anything that would be under your name became your private property after that. As well as some people could also buy apartment buildings from the government through all sorts of loans, which was very affordable back then, like 2, 3, 4 years it could be done. And also for those who were tenants, as I was telling you, who got, but they didn't have the paperwork as it would be under.
Uy. Wow, ayan ang parlamento.
Yes, so we have arrived in front of one of the largest buildings in the entire world, right in front of your eyes. And I say one of because, well, although on Wikipedia it says second largest, I know that China took the second place in the meantime. In any case, we know for sure that it is the heaviest building in the entire world, having the world record for that. And that is because it also has 1 million cubic meters of marble inside. So, because of this, actually, it is also sinking each year a couple of centimeters. In this picture, you can also see the entire back part of it, the behind of it. We are sitting right over here, so we are seeing this part. There's an entire labyrinth of other buildings which make up this massive thing. So, you can just imagine also the amount of resources that was needed in order to make this entire building, because Nicolae Ceausescu actually, back in those days, in the 80s, he, well, how self-sufficient Romania is with its economy, right? Because that's what communism is all about. And he wasn't necessarily also taking all orders from Moscow. He wanted exactly all about self-sufficiency. So he made his building out of 100% with that kind of eyes. And especially because once I was on top of the hill where we started our tour, and you have a view from there to this building, and there was a man with his kids, and they would be looking at the building, and he'd be like, "Look, you see what's over there?" Telling to his children, and the children were like, "Yeah, it's the house of people, right?" And he said, "No, it's the house of thieves." So I would also say that, well, also Nicolae Ceausescu's dream, as you can also see with this very big square over here, his dream was to come out to that balcony over there, gather all of his people into the square, and wave, exactly. But well, we killed him in the meantime, so he did not live up to that dream. Whereas the first person who managed to wave from that balcony was no other than... Does anybody know? No. It was Michael Jackson. When he had a world tour in 1992, he also came here to Romania. He stopped by. He was like, okay, well, you know, Romania, fresh democracy, let's sing about that.
Wow.
And he said hello Budapest instead of Bucharest. So Ceausescu in his grave being like, I am that's Michael Jackson democracy, doesn't even know where he's at, you know?
Yeah.
But in any case, yeah, that is probably, as I said, you know, changing the meaning of this building. Although, as I said, even to this day, it is actually the biggest tourist attraction over here in Romania. And well, even though we are left off with this building, which is pretty much useless, at the same time it is also quite impressive that they managed to build such an immense building out of 100% Romanian materials, you know? But at the same time it also came with sacrifices, because there have been a couple of hundred people who died during the building. And that was also because of the very harsh conditions. So they were forced laborers. Instead of going to prison, they would be used to make this building. Also normal people, they were taken away from their normal jobs. They would be brought into Bucharest 2-3 weeks to put a brick on this wall, and then yeah, basically made out of cheap labor and cheap materials for free, basically, or most of it in any case. So yeah. Anyway, we also have that. Everything that this building is made out of 100% Romanian materials. And instead of having all of those goods for the people, producing for the people, how did they produce for the house of people? So you can already see the irony of the name of the building, as well as for the fact that there used to be an entire neighborhood of people living over here that also had to sacrifice their homes for the house of people. Now, at the same time, these people were compensated, and that usually happened with all of these big engineering projects where they had to take people away from those places. They would be compensated with apartment buildings, with apartments in other parts of the city. But well, in any case, imagine that just a couple of decades ago, if we would be talking to someone it would be something like, yes, my house was somewhere over there, you know? So all of this
Ano pa doon, no?
completely changed.
Basta nakalagay Romana.
Initially, they wanted to finish it in just 2 years.
1979.
Sorry?
I know this.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Sorry.
Sorry? Yeah, he initially wanted to finish this entire building in 2 years, which would have been very ambitious for him to do that. But in any case, well, he died in 1989, and the building officially was finished in 1994, so 10 years after. Of course, we were also going through a very large economical situation, and that's why it was also delayed. But in the meantime, we actually do not know to this day if this entire building is actually finished, because there used to be a lot of projects before, and a lot of revisions for this project, especially with all of these secret entrances and tunnels, because as big as this building you can see high up, it is actually also going that much down underground.
Uy,
7 levels underneath the
sinking.
ground.
Yeah.
Having tunnels which connect this building to important parts of the city, like with the National Bank, with the Ministry of Internal Affairs, with the airport. And that is because Nicolae Ceausescu had an entire escape plan in case the Russians would come after him. As I said, all about self-sufficiency. He did not like the Russians, and well, he didn't want guys.
Okay.
All right. So, anyways. Speaking about homes, this is actually now a stop where we're going to be talking about the urbanization process, because probably you've already realized that Bucharest is very mixed. It's like a mosaic of all sorts of buildings from all the periods of our history over here. And that is because on one hand we had all of these demolishments during communist times as a way of remaking history, or also because of the earthquake that we had here in Bucharest. As well as but in any case, this is how Bucharest used to look like, with these kind of homes. As you can see, similar to the architecture that is surrounding us right now. And this is because at some point a lot of our intellectuals would go to study to Paris and Vienna, and they would bring this type of architecture back. Actually, a lot of these buildings were demolished during communist times, also from practical reasons, because they wanted to make room for larger boulevards, for larger apartment buildings, to house as many people as possible. But as I said, it was also a way for them to rewrite history, basically, through this new set of blocks of flats, as a way of showing how mighty the regime is. And also you can observe with this area, right, which is surrounding us, because we are basically away from the main boulevard, right, this one over here, from this main boulevard, which is part of this whole entire project of the Palace of Parliament. And as it was hidden away from this main boulevard, it was also people will forget about. As you can see, there is also a horse carriage over here. I would say that Bucharest also has quite an interesting mix of rural and urban. Well, some people would say that people had to get back to horse carriages because of the shortages, petrol shortages that we had back then. But to be honest, I mean, you can still find these horse carriages also in Transylvania, also in Bucharest, in the main boulevards. You would see these horse carriages, like. About that immense building, well, not this one, the immense building that we have just seen. In the meantime, you know, people were waiting in these very long queues for their basic necessities. Right behind me, you can see that A over there, which is the store. They would check it off from the list. And as a way of you guys to have a better understanding of how much these restaurants were, this is, for example,
the restaurant.
Ration for somebody per person per month. Only the bread is per day, then the rest is per month. Flour, sugar, butter, cornmeal, the rest you can find out through the images. So yes, it was also similar with some parts of Europe during and after the Second World War, also with the Russian cards. There were scarcities after that, so they wanted to make sure that everyone has bread on their table. Whereas here in Romania, well, we had to, the Russians just wanted to pay all of his debts, so that is why he imposed these Russian cards. Now, at the beginning of communist times, we of course had to borrow money in order to industrialize the country. And then there used to, was it almost? So, yes, and so as we wanted to industrialize the country, we had to borrow money. But then there was the oil crisis in 1979, which messed up all of the interest rates. And so they had a loan of credit, and this time from the IMF, which of course the IMF was opposing a lot of conditions, and he did not like that because this is exactly why he wanted to repay all of his debts. So he took all of these measures of austerity into his own hands, and he imposed the rations, and also imposed the fact that whenever we would have most of the things that we would produce here in Romania had to become exported, as well as the fact that imports were obviously limited. So basically, we don't have that much left in the country. Now, of course, you can also escape this harsh reality through media, music, servants. But all of these had to, of course, get an approval from the secret police. But what's also interesting is that the biggest business in which the secret police was involved was illegal trade from the West. So they were
Ano so? Bilang eh, nakakakaon tuloy eh.
Understands the blue one over there, just above the Fresco logo, is also from communist times, and it stands for a traveling agency, which is funny because back in the days you couldn't really travel that easily from Romania to different countries, and that is because of course the regime was very paranoid that people are going to defect the country. So it was very hard to get a passport during communist times. The amount of time that you would leave the country. So not like 10 years like it is nowadays. And in any case, you have to go through multiple but you're not going to defect the country. And some of the measures, as a way of preventing you to defect, would be, for example, that you have so that they could make sure that you're not going to take all of your family, usually children, because your grandma could still stay, if she could stay there. But yeah, in any case. If there were any of these sort of organized trips outside of Romania, that was, of course, more trustworthy citizens. And of course, the dream destination was St. Petersburg when that would happen. But for the ordinary Romanian person, that was actually a dream for them to leave. Maybe if you were a child and you thought you could study very well, you could go for international Olympiads, or if you were a very good sportsman as well, because of course you had to show off to the rest of the world other sportsmen and all of that, or for conferences and so on and so forth. But as I said, just for vacationing and all of that, it was very difficult. Now, also, as you can imagine, tourism was mostly focused domestically here in Romania. We had all sorts of resorts, which, especially in the Black Sea, were also built from scratch. And they mostly also had very nice coastal agriculture as a way to not only attract tourists from Romania or also from the East Bloc, but also from the West. So each time you have to have an amount of money in order to leave the country. Because I've also heard stories of people who, from my tour at least, who were trying to leave the country illegally, of course, through the border, because probably they didn't have money, they were coming from a poor background. Whereas from other people, I had a person who was living in Romania since he was like 10 years old or something like that. He left during...
This is the Romania look like. Ipasa mo yung mamaya para masama ko sa upload.
napasa ko na yung iba.
Kunin ko. Gising.
criticized the Romanian regime on Hungarian television. So of course when he came back to Romania, the secret police wanted to interrogate him, and he told to his followers that he will not be able to come to church next Sunday because he will be under interrogation by the secret police. So the next Sunday, people see at the church that he's not there to serve. So they started to protest, and one thing led to another, and they saw this also as an opportunity in which they could go against the regime. So this is when they started shouting, "Down Ceausescu!" And this is echoing all across the country, including here in Bucharest, where, of course, Nicolae Ceausescu had to hold a speech on the 21st of December. He went out to that balcony, gathered all of his people over here. There was, of course, the television. And when he started his speech, he was starting to downplay what happened in Timișoara, and people started to boo at him. And you can actually see the shock on his face the moment he realized that delusion cracked, because he thought until then that people loved him, of course because of all of the people behind him telling him that. But after that he was like, well, he went back to a central committee of the Communist Party. This is what the building was. Interestingly enough, now it is the Ministry of Internal Affairs. So basically the same people with two different jackets on. And he was trying to come up with a solution to all of this. So he wanted to send the army to the streets, which of course was not the most brilliant idea, because even the army was not happy about this idea. The next day, on the 22nd of December, the General Army committed suicide. Some speculate he might have been assassinated. In any case, maybe it was a way for him to convey to Ceausescu that I'm not taking your orders anymore. So he basically left chaos do its own order over here, because the next couple of days, that was exactly it. On the streets, the army was handing out guns to normal people. You would see somebody dressed it was so confusing at some point.
Oh, bukas ka. Kasi bawal kami ngayon.
Nakita yun sa mga film, mga ilang ano ba?
Oo. Oo, no, diba? Mga ganun. Balikan natin yung mga film.
And it was also somewhat linked to our story because quite dependent, right? After that, it was nationalized.
Old town to old town. Ha?
Labay ni Maday?
Yung akin, nalabay ko na. Saan siya? Saan? Atom yun. Agoy. Ay, tayo pala yan, sis.
Now because they're trying to reconstruct it. It could be good for a museum, but in any case, we're going to see what's going to happen with it. Over there, samples that are under construction, they used it as a torture room. Yeah, they are that's what they do the basement. In any case, so this basement was 2 levels down, meaning that people from the streets did not feel it's going on in the building. As well as people who were living inside the building had no idea that they were living above one of these torture rooms. So yes, as I said, the city police being the most powerful state in Romania in these days, it was the right. Still do not know. Da, ca să reconstituie așa ceva, ca să restaureze.
Yung isa, nagreklamo ng isa doon. Laki naman ng mga eso.
Baka makagat ang lecho.
Baka tayo ang ano dito, hawak-hawak habang kaya pa. Sis, kumbate pa sis, kumbate. Kumbate.
Sakit na yung mga ano ko, pinin.
Yung pa ako na sakit na ha?
Yung pinin ha.
O yung tinin ba?
Tapos, naantok na ako.
Oo, maya kain tayo. Wala antok mo. Sabaw sa tais. Tomiyum.
Ay, sana mag-run tayo ng ganyan, no?
Ay, may ano dito over ha? Yung bang pag-uwi natin, hindi tayo maglakad ba?
Pagpa-uwi.
Oo. Kasi may nakita ko dito may over eh. Pero yeah, lakarin pati yung restaurant. Yung kasangkat. Ito.
Hotel, ha?
Ay. Jam, mamaya pag uwi, mag-ano tayo, bolt. May bolt mamaya eh.
Oh, may boat.
After natin mag-ano, ties ba? Para,
Para malapit.
oo.
Parang iba dito yung tipo. Parang layo na yung ties ba?
Dali kasi green pa. Kaya sabi nga, tiis ganda eh. Kaya balikan natin to lahat. Oh, maganda. Dito yung mga picture. Kasi wala tayong picture lahat dito ha. Balikan natin to lahat. Oh, mamaya ito mag-open. Alam mo yung mga doon sa atin. Mamaya lalabas mamaya yun. Lalabas yun mamaya. We are here now in the middle of the nowhere. In the middle of the night. Eng. mga animil. Munano. The midget of the... Ako solo ako bi. Kasi maganda. Ah, talaga? Hindi ko alam yun.
Parang wala namang gaano. Sarado, ah.
Parang, ito yung old ano nila ha? Oh, sige. So, Bucharest, Romania. Bucharest. Okay, this is. Ay, maganda dito yung TikTok kasi may parang blue.
May spy.
Ay, Tagalog ka din? Tagalog?
Kaya nga sabi ko, parang mga Pilipinas siya.
Para kayong mga Thais dito. Tagalog ka din?
May taste kayo nag-work dito? Meron? Kaya pala kayo
To our project in Romania. More project. Okay. More flood control project. Amazing. More flood control project.
Pero gumano na siya, Tim. Ayaw na niyong mamigay.
The tourist is coming to town. Salamat.
sa atin yun.
Ay, tatlo tayo? What is that? Bayaran na. Kudasay.
Pinakalulo talaga na.
Yeah? Yeah.
Ito pa ang abulo ng mama.
Pangarap.
Tara siguro. Oo, great. Ako din. Video. Alam ko ba ito? Kasi food natin. Ko na lang yan. Das mo sis. Kita yung food. Ha? Wala ka ba? Ang tagal naman sa amin. Delicioso.
Dito na yon.
Baby.
Si Obek kasi kahit sa loob.
Tatawag mo na ako para hindi na magtampo.